Hi, this is Roberta Ashkin from Cancer Schmancer, and I'm here in front of the Friars Club in New York City where Fran Drescher is being honored for her wonderful work with Cancer Schmancer. Today, Fran will be honored by Kathy Lee Gifford, and we'll have an opportunity to speak to Fran about the wonderful work that she's doing on behalf of the movement. So sit back and enjoy, and thank you for watching. I'd like to introduce our audience to Miss Esther Drescher,
Yeah.
and of course, our visionary and our wonderful Fran Drescher. Thank you so much for allowing us to film you, Fran.
Oh, I'm delighted. Thank you for wanting to.
Well, you know, Fran, there's been so much in the newspapers lately about advocating women's rights for anything from sporting events and sexual harassment, but you don't do too much about advocating women's rights with respect to health care. And Cancer Schmancer, many of you may not know, but you will in a moment, Cancer Schmancer has done something revolutionary for women, and I think you're onto something absolutely extraordinary. So tell us about that on your first anniversary of this organization.
I know, it's exciting. Well, the revolutionary aspect of the Cancer Schmancer movement is that we really want to empower women to take control of their body so they can become better partners with their physicians. And our whole mission is to ensure that all women with cancer are diagnosed in stage 1, and our credo is stage 1 is the cure. So I think that what we're doing is original in that sense, because we believe that if everyone was diagnosed with their cancer in stage 1, everyone would live practically, and certainly the mortality rates would diminish considerably. So we're determined through education, prevention, and policy change to see that happen, and we've just successfully passed a bill in Washington that got turned into law and appropriated and got funded, and that's the Gynecologic Cancer Education and Awareness Act, the first of its kind in U.S. history. Now we're building on that with some very progressive legislation in the state of California to mandate certain tests that women are not presently being offered at their gynecologic appointment, so that they have a better sense of the health condition of their uterus and ovaries. And it's just making women realize that they have to stop subscribing to the Victorian sensibility that says if, you feel something's wrong with you, but grin and bear it because your family comes first. What we're trying to retrain women to thinking is if you put your family first, you're really putting them last because you're useless to them when you're 6 feet under.
You know, Fran, some of the things that you've really targeted in on are really important elements for our society today. I don't think our audience quite understands that. For example, there's something like over 27,000 cancers, uterine cancers I believe they are, that are diagnosed every year in the United States alone. And somewhere over 15,000 of them end up in mortality. And that's because they are not diagnosed early. And something staggering that I learned recently was that 93% cure rate is available in stage 1. So obviously that's part of what Johanna's Law is intended to do, am I right?
Yes, that's the first Education and Awareness Acts targeted specifically at gynecologic cancers in U.S. history. The difference between stage 1 diagnosis and stage 4 diagnosis in reaching that coveted 5-year survival rate is staggering. For example, a woman with breast cancer that's diagnosed in stage 4 has about a 20% chance of reaching that 5-year survival mark. But if she's diagnosed in stage 1, she has a 100% chance. Likewise, 80% of all women with ovarian cancer will find out in the late stages, and over 70% of them will die. However, if they were diagnosed in stage 1, over 93% of those women would absolutely live to see that 5-year coveted survival rate. And my cancer, uterine cancer, which is the slowest growing and least invasive of all the female cancers, is the only cancer with a mortality rate that's on the rise. And that's because the early warning symptoms are very subtle. Women tend to be in denial. They feel like they can live with it, so they do. And so more often than not, they don't actually seek help from a physician until they're in the advanced stages. And at that point, it's often too late. So we want to encourage women, when you feel something, and the earliest warning symptoms of cancers come in whispers, but you have to listen very closely. You have to be skilled in recognizing that this could be something, and then you have to be very proactive in doing something about it by calling your physician, by looking your symptoms up on the internet, so that you can become better partners and know what tests are available out there, because all too often the tests that you may need won't even be on the menu at the doctor's office. And also you have to be careful, because very often women are misdiagnosed for far more benign illnesses. So the woman, for example, with ovarian cancer may be misdiagnosed for irritable bowel syndrome. When I meet a woman that says she was just diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, I say, honey, I hope that's what you've got. But for a moment, step away from your gastroenterologist, go see your gynecologist, and rule out ovarian cancer, because at the cancer's earliest stages, when it's most curable, it looks identical to irritable bowel syndrome. And that is a very aggressive cancer that spreads very quickly, and it shoots off seeds. So you really need to catch that in the nick of time. And with my cancer, I was misdiagnosed and mistreated for a perimenopausal condition that I didn't have for 2 years and 8 doctors. I was put on 4 different hormone replacement therapies for a condition that I didn't have, and all the while I had cancer.
Well, I know you have to go, but one more, I think, really important thing we ought to cover with you, and that is that right now, today, as we speak, in spite of all of the money that goes to cancer research, Fran, very little of it really goes to gynecological research, and there is not yet today, in 2008, a gold standard for diagnosis for gynecological cancers. And I know that you have certain ideas about what women should be asking for from their doctors and from the health insurance community about what should be made available for women in this particular avenue. So maybe you could just fill us in a bit.
Well, I think that all women should ask for a TVU, or a transvaginal ultrasound, at their gynecologic exam. That would not be offered to you as standard practice unless you're pregnant. And we feel like all women should be entitled to know what the condition of their uterus and ovaries are, and if any abnormalities are picked up. If abnormalities seem to appear in the ultrasound on or around the ovaries, then we recommend that you ask for a CA-125 blood test, which is a very simple test that can indicate that there may be something wrong with your ovaries in terms of a potential malignancy. And if something shows up in the uterus, perhaps a thickening of the uterus, or otherwise known as hypoplasia, which could be a precursor to uterine cancer, or any kind of cysts growing in the uterus, we recommend getting an endometrial biopsy, which can be done with a brush technique or a straw technique, which is more site-specific, so sometimes you're at risk of missing the spot. And then, of course, we recommend that all women ask for an HPV test, which is more conclusive than just a Pap test, and that a reminder that the Pap test doesn't cover anything north of the cervix. And for women that have not been exposed to HPV, they should seriously consider getting the HPV vaccine.
Fran Drescher is a treasure to women and to society with her visionary aspects. And I just have to say, it's been recognized here at the Friars Club because this is the first time in their history that they've honored somebody at a luncheon of this type where a certain portion of the proceeds will go for a charitable endeavor. So congratulations, Fran.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Bye, Doe.